Hello and welcome, Darren Connell, or Dardo, as people know. And I wouldn't have known that if you hadn't made reference to that in your TikToks when you impersonate people coming up to you and saying, "Hey, Dardo." Like, all right, that's what you get called. So Darren Connell is a comedian. I think you're maybe a lot of other things as well, but I don't know so much about that, and you can probably tell me. You're not a writer?
Good things, hopefully.
Aye, a creator and stuff. I think you're involved in quite a lot of things, or have been, because you've been an actor as well. Right, so I'll ask you about that. I have been connected to you for actually quite a while. At least a couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
And I've just been saying to Darren, this nearly didn't happen the day because I had a wee issue with my car that I had to get fixed. Thankfully, it's fine. Anyway, I said to him, I really didn't want to rearrange this because it's taken me 1 year and 10 days exactly to get Darren in my car. So I can't thank you enough for doing it. You are always quite up for it.
Yes.
But you do, I don't know. I mean, I just... with what you share on TikTok, I do know that you have got you've got a massive story to share. And the other thing is, which I find really fascinating, is that creative people, and I was just talking about this week in my stories or at the weekend, always seem to have like horrendous trauma. Like, I'm trying to understand that. I've been researching that.
Yeah.
And you fit in, well, maybe horrendous trauma isn't the right way to describe it. You can tell me how you describe
horrendous
it.
Trauma.
But you do fit into that category of, and so do I, by the way. I'm not sitting here going, oh, this is, doesn't affect me. It does. Of being, like, having mental health challenges and also being extremely creative.
Yeah.
Right, so over to you, Darren. Let's let you speak because it is all about you. Are you a comedian full time?
Right, I just find that funny how, like, somebody will be like, how did they get Scott Squad? And I'll be like, horrendous trauma.
Was it?
No.
So, right, we'll need to backtrack a wee bit now, though, because I haven't specifically mentioned that you were in Scott Squad. How long ago was that?
Right, so I got... What was the first question you asked? I've got ADHD, by the way, I'm so sorry.
Well, to make it that makes 2 years.
Right,
although I'm not actually diagnosed, but I definitely have it.
Okay.
What was the first question? The comedian thing? I was asking you if you're a comedian full-time, I think,
Yes, full-time comedian, that's my first thing that I've ever done. And everything else came from me being a comedian, Scott Squad and Panto and stuff. But Scott Squad was about 10 years ago, and it only finished maybe a year and a half ago. So we had a really good run, run, and it seems to be getting a wee bit of a new kind of buzz about it because it's on BBC iPlayer right now. So even though it's not been on the telly for ages, well, reruns. I'm getting a lot of comments. I'm probably getting more comments now than when it was actually on the TV. People
are associating you with that.
Yeah, which I don't mind. It's nice. It's a nice wee kit. I loved playing Bobby. It was a good character.
You said something. Was Bobby one of the policemen?
No, Bobby was a nuisance. He was a pest.
So he was just at the attention of the police regularly.
Yeah.
So, because I've only seen clips and stuff that you've probably shared on that. Yeah. But I saw you sharing something which I thought was so relevant for anybody pursuing anything in life, where you had to accept. What was it you said? Remind me. It was something about like being Bobby in Scott Squad and you trying to pursue a dream of being an actor. And then you finally had, like, at some point accepted that wasn't happening for you. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was a while ago you talked about it, but that just sprang to mind. What was it?
I think I was saying something like, I mean, my whole dream was to be a comedian, and then I achieved it. And then when you get an acting job, it's almost like gold at the end of the rainbow. But when you get there, people are still like, but aye, what next? And you're like, I just got that, like, let me enjoy that. I remember reading an interview about a football player, I think he played for Hibs or something, and his dad, or no, maybe it wasn't his dad, but somebody in his family classed him as a failure because he never played for Celtic or Rangers or down in England. And he was like, I was a professional football player for like 15 years. How am I a failure? And I think in Scotland sometimes you can get that vibe. Like people will be like, oh, Scott squad was shite, or how come you can't get on this show or that show? Like, I think I've done pretty well. I never went to drama school either. I wasn't a trained actor.
I love social media for that, by the way, what you're saying, like people who haven't gone down that route but are maybe naturally creative, you know, they get discovered from social media. I love that about social media. I love that everybody's got the same opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got that platform to do your creative stuff or be what you want to be.
Yeah.
Do you know? But you, from like, so we'll go to your personal story, because I think that's linked to the creativity based on the research that I've done. I'm not qualified to say that. You're sober.
Yes.
And have been now for, it was your anniversary just recently, was it 8 years?
8 years, yeah. 8 years on the 17th of December.
Well done.
I was 8 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I saw you talking about that as
All
well.
I did is drink 5 gallons. My heart nearly exploded there trying to say that. A gallon of Red Bull a day, but
You drink more than that one can.
No,
day.
I had
right,
one.
Just that.
One a day.
And that is a huge can. How
Yeah.
much is in that? 473ml. I've just been telling them I can't drink energy drinks. They give me the fear, actually, because of the impact they have on me.
I'm like paranoid in a car in Springburn right now. I'm like, my heart.
You're with me, you're safe.
Aye.
Right, so what's the story with that? What happened? Does this go back to way back and linked to your life?
The horrendous trauma part. No, I think like working class guy, like anybody else, you grow up in a culture that's, you know, no healthy regarding alcohol and drugs, and I didn't really drink every day, but I was just the typical young guy. Would drink if the football was on, drink at the weekends and any other occasion. But when I started doing stand-up, I noticed that it became acceptable to like drink on a Monday and a Tuesday, and nobody would say anything or judge you. So towards the end, I was like, I think I'm close to drinking 7 days a week, and I wasn't even realising it. And also I was drinking a lot for like Dutch courage regarding performance, or maybe I was just using that for an excuse. But yeah, towards the end, I was 28 when I chucked it, and I was just very aware that this isn't good for my physical health, my mental health. I just wasn't feeling good anytime I drank for years. I would say for the start, 95% of my experience was with alcohol was negative, and I just became self-aware of like, why do I keep doing this? And I got really embarrassed one night as well, because somebody asked us, a promoter asked us, he's like, how many gigs have you done? And I think I said something like, oh, I've done 1,000 gigs. And he's like, how many have you done sober? And my heart sank. And I was just like, I don't know. And in my head, I was like, I don't think I've ever done a gig sober. I wasn't drunk, steaming, like making an arse of myself. But definitely, you know, 3-4 pints before I walked on to a stage. And then after it, I would get drunk after it. And that was a wake-up call. And I just I was one of those guys that was always like, I'm going to chuck booze, I'm going to go, I can't be bothered, it's no good for me. And one day I just woke up and I was just sick. I was just so sick of being the guy that was always saying that. And my pals would always tell us to shut up as well. They're just like, mate, you're like a parrot. And I don't think it was a choice for me. I just hit the end of a road and it just happened.
So you don't, or do you class yourself as an alcoholic?
Do you know, I've got no shame in classing myself as an alcoholic. Alcohol's not a problem for me now. I don't even think about it. Drinking alcohol is so alien to me. So I work in pubs and clubs and nightclubs, or if I'm out on a date or something and somebody's drinking alcohol, I wouldn't be like, can you not drink that in front of me? Like, I'm not that type of person. It just doesn't even enter my mind anymore. But I don't think there should be any shame saying that you're an alcoholic. If I have to say that I'm an alcoholic and then live the rest of my life sober and be happy, then I'll call myself an alcoholic.
It's just a label, but anyway,
Yeah.
it doesn't really...
Plus, it's not like a lot of people have. I just class myself. I'm allergic to it. Like, anytime I put alcohol into my body, something bad happens. So, I'd class myself as allergic to it. Like, it affects my mental health. But yeah, I'd class myself as an alcoholic.
See the mental health, because you do talk about your mental health,
Yeah.
and you've struggled with depression.
Yeah.
Did you see a link? The sun's just came out.
Aye.
Between the drinking and the effect on your mental health?
Definitely. So I think if you're naturally... I had mental health problems anyway, regardless of alcohol. And then when I would drink alcohol, it would be like putting petrol on a bonfire. And it would just, make things 100 times worse. And I think a lot of people drink thinking that it makes them feel better as well. And it actually doesn't make you feel better. Same way performance-wise, you think it's going to help you with nerves. It doesn't help you with nerves. It absolutely does not help you with nerves. So you're just drunk and nervous.
And then when you sober up, it's like the fear times a million.
Yep, on top of if you're a naturally kind of anxious person anyway. So I absolutely, I noticed that I was like, my mental health is bad, but anytime I'm doing this, it's making it so much worse.
See, so just to link the mental health to everything that you do, see, when you came out of school, did you go straight to performing?
No.
What's the story? How did you get into the whole comedy thing before we even talk about acting? Because that came later, like you say, you were a comedian first.
Yeah. Sorry for coughing, by the way.
That's all right, you're allowed.
I had a strange childhood. Like, I never, when I talk to actors and comedians and I tell them what happened, they're like, what? Like, I just woke up and I left school one day. I got to the start of first year, was never good in school, never had good grades, and I woke up in the start of first year and I was just like, I'm leaving school. And I walked into school that day and I left it, just on the spot decision to leave school.
In first year?
Fifth year, sorry.
Right, okay.
And I got back to my house and my mum and my dad were like, how was your day? I said, I just left school. And they were like, why? Because I'm not getting anything for it. My dad was like, well, you better go and get a job. And I went and got a job in Safeway.
Well, remember Safeway. How old are you?
36.
Ah, right. I
Yeah.
thought you were younger than that. So you're right, because Safeway was where Mama used to do her messages.
Yes. And I just kind of stumbled through life. I never really thought about my future, never had any goals, was very happy living within a week by week basis. And I always loved comedy though. Like, loved comedy, loved movies, loved old school movies, like kind of obsessed with it. My granddad was really funny as well. So later on I was like, I can't kind of work in here my whole life. I should probably go to college. And I went to college and I was being a class clown in the college once. and a boy in the class was like, mate, you should try stand-up comedy.
Do you remember what it was you were doing when he said that to you?
Do you know, see, because, you know, back in the day, like ADHD and all that stuff just wasn't spoke about. And when I was in primary school and high school, I could not pay attention, I couldn't learn. And I also realised it wasn't stupidity. Like, I was like, there's something here that I don't know what it is. I'm amazing at music and things like that, but when it comes to like reading spreadsheets and all that stuff, I go cross-eyed. And I went to this TV course and it was all paperwork, it was all numbers, and I just could not pay attention, I couldn't focus. But when it came to writing or being creative with ideas and stuff, I found myself really good at it. I can't really remember what I was saying, but I think I was just bored. And
do you remember how you felt though? Like, even though you don't remember what you were saying, and when he said that to you, did you think, oh, he's got something here, because everybody was laughing and you were feeling good about it, making everybody laugh?
Yeah, I felt, I've said this before on quite a lot of podcasts, like, I never knew that you could get comedy clubs in Scotland. In terms of stand-up comedians, I thought there was only Billy Connolly. I was very young, really naive to the world. So when he said that I could do stand-up, I mean, I was flattered, but I was also like, can you even do that? I never knew you could do that. And he told us, he's like, there's comedy clubs. And I think I remember actually saying to him, like, what's a comedy club? Like, I was just so young and naive. And he had to explain to me, like, you can write 5 minutes of jokes and go and perform stand-up comedy. And that just blew my mind. Because he was saying things like open mic nights, and I was like, what's an open mic night? I was so naive and just so in a wee bubble for a long time in my life that I never
and
knew
an
any of that.
open mic night is where you can go along to a comedy club and get the opportunity to have however 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, to then like show yourself.
Yes.
Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah. So he, like, I've kind of mellowed out a lot as I've got a wee bit older, but when I was younger and I never had that process to be creative, I was like 100 miles per hour, used to fucking talk to myself walking down the street, like, not in a bad way, just I don't even know. Like, even when I was a trolley boy in supermarkets, I used to just like try and make customers laugh and stuff. And when he told us, like, you can actually write jokes and put them down on paper, I found that so calming, and so it was such a calming experience, and it chilled me out a lot that I was able to do that. So yeah.
So where did you go from there then? Like, was that the moment where you started to think about it, or could I do this? Or was it a gradual process with everything that you were doing, like you say, working in Safeway, being the trolley boy, whatever? Was it a wee while before you actually put yourself out there?
It was a long... see, anything in my life, it's never came easy. I've never took the simple path. It's always... I've stumbled into it, or it's been an accident. But when he said that to me, it definitely was like a light bulb moment. I never thought I would have been a professional, but I felt like I was... My entire life, I felt like I was walking about in white noise. And then as soon as he said that, I just had calmness. So I started to go and watch stand-up comedy. And I started to say to my mates as well, like, I might try and do stand-up or do a spot somewhere. And do you think I should do it? And my pals were like, well, you've always been funny. Like, you've always been the funniest out of your pals. And even recently, some people are like, mate, you were funny in primary school. And I can't really remember much, but yeah, that made me start to watch stand-up. And I've said this a lot as well. My first gig was at the Stand, and it was terrible. So that was when I was 18.
Oh wow.
And I never did
18 years ago? That's how long you've been doing it for?
Yeah. Well,
wow.
I did it when I was 18 and I was so bad I never did it until I was 24. So I wouldn't say I've been doing it for... That was my first ever gig and I never went back until I was 24. So I wouldn't say I've been doing it for 18 years, but...
You started it 18
I
years ago.
certainly... I've been watching it. I've been watching live comedy. I've been in the circuit for 18 years. I would say I've been performing for maybe 12, 13.
It's such a skill, Darren. Hats off to you, man. I don't know how comedians do it. I was at the opening night of the Glasgow Comedy Festival last Thursday, and there was a few comedians went up and did like a wee slot and whatever. It was a brilliant night.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That was my first time ever at anything like that, and it's not the usual kind of event that I would get invited to, but I loved it.
Brilliant.
And I was the whole time thinking, I don't know how they do that. Like, I just don't know where you get the skill to go up there and do that.
Yeah.
Where do you get the skill for that? Do you get taught it? Is there somewhere you can go where they'll teach you how to be like that? Because it's different to any other performing art, I think.
Yeah. There's no... I've said this so many times. Nobody can teach you how to be funny. You're either funny or you're not funny. So... what I see is there's a lot of diamonds in the rough. I can see someone do stand-up and be like, if you just keep doing stand-up and keep writing and keep gigging, you'll get better because you've never done it before. So your nervousness and shyness and awkwardness is getting in the way right now because you're no used to performing. But you'll get there. There's no way that you're either funny or you're not funny.
But see, even...
That's it.
Right. And I do get that. Right, but see, even that way, right? So I get that, like, you need to be saying stuff that is funny. But I feel like the personality is huge. Like, so I maybe saw 4 people doing their, wee slot that night. And every one of them had this enigmatic personality. That's the only way I can describe it. So they go up there and they are absolutely, like controlling the whole room, not just with what they're saying.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm asking you. See that non-verbal bit of what comedians do, holding the stage, is that taught?
No. You can get comedy courses, you can go and do comedy courses. I did a comedy course when I was younger, but none of it's taught. You can only get better and good through constantly gigging. It's like going to the gym. It's just working a muscle. I remember back in the day, when I never knew anything about stand-up. So when I first started, you do 5-minute gigs. And every time I was doing a 5-minute gig, I tried to write a new 5 minutes. And a comedian pulled me aside and he's like, don't do that. Write 5 minutes and perform that 5 minutes all the time and perfect it. And then see, when you perfect it, you'll start getting 10-minute gigs. And then that's when you start adding new material, chopping and changing. So see, when you get to a stage at where I am just now, I try to write a new hour of material every year. But then I've got a club set as well. So if I go to the Stand or the Glee and they'll give me 20 minutes, I'll go to the Glee and I'll do my golden hits. And then the next time I go to the Glee, I'll do a new 20 minutes. And that's how I try to treat it when I was an open spot. But he doesn't do stand-up anymore. His name was Mikey Adams. I was always surrounded with people that were like, mate, you're funny, but you just need to keep gigging. And Mikey Adams told us, he's like, you'll find your voice one day. You'll get that eureka moment on stage. And I never really understood what he meant by it. And I remember standing on the stage once doing a gig at the Stand, and I had this, I've got it. I just had this moment of like, jackpot, I've got this. I think I found my voice just through constantly working, constantly gigging, doing the bad gigs as well. Like going up to, I've got a lot of new comedians that they're trying to find shortcuts and cheat codes, and they try to set up podcasts and they try to make their podcast big and then they try to get into stand-up. I'm like, there's no cheat code. You need to earn your stripes. You need to go up to Aberdeen on a Tuesday. You need to go up to Inverness on a Wednesday. You need to get paid for a fiver. Paid a fiver on a Thursday night. There's no cheat codes.
And it's just about consistency.
Consistency.
And that's such a good lesson for everything, I think. But I think that applies to everything. And there's very, very few people on this planet, like you say, that just wake up one day and have something like, you know, a contract handed to them on a plate or whatever.
Yeah.
Very few people. You need to work hard at it, whatever it is.
And plus, you need to earn your stripes in anything in life. It's just the way it is, and it makes you better. It makes you a better performer. It makes you humble as well. So when the good times do come, like Scot Squad, which I realise is like 1 in a million anyway, when things like that do come, I just enjoy it. I don't think anything else. I'm enjoying it while it lasts, and things like Panto and other things. But that's why I'm grateful as well. I look back in my life and I'm grateful that I worked in places like Safeway and never went to college and stuff. And I used to work with my brother's mates that were like tradesmen and stuff, and pretty awful jobs that never paid really well. And now I'm in a position now that I would, like, you know, people can moan about, like, I don't want to go to Aberdeen on a Tuesday. And I'm like, well, it's better than labouring for a tailor, mate. So I'll rather go to Aberdeen on a Tuesday. So, but then, you know, it makes you humble. It does, it makes you humble.
And see the mindset for that. I know you've struggled with your mental health and we've not talked about that yet. And I want to try and get everything in that you do, you know, because you've got the funny bunch and you've got your podcast as well, right? And we'll come to all of that. But see what you're talking about, like that place of accepting everything. If you worked on getting your mindset to that place of, it's almost like just appreciating everything that you've got and no looking for anything else or anything more, because I think we are really guilty, just people in general are always guilty of wanting to achieve the next thing, the next goal. It's one of the reasons I hate goals, right? And I know goals are great for loads of reasons, but I just feel it instills that feeling for me personally of constant failure, because you've constantly got something to achieve.
Yeah, and it's really, I've been through this a lot and I've really struggled with it for many years. Like, I'm not a saint with this. I struggled, it affected my mental health, like really badly affected my mental health, and I had to cut people off. I've had to cut friends off, or what I thought were friends. Jealousy, toxic, snidey comments. You know, I remember I had a pal that was always like, what do you do for work? How do you get paid? How much do you get paid? Do you pay tax?
I hate
all
those
the
questions.
time, all the time. It was never well done. Good on you for Scot Squad, good on you for a Panto. It was almost like, when are you going to stop this and get a real job? And even like some family members would be like, I had to have a serious conversation with a family member and be like, if you keep this up, I'm going to lose respect for you. Anytime I would say I'm doing Scot Squad, it'd be like, oh, it'd be good if you could get something else. What about River City? What about something on Netflix? So it would never be congratulations or well done. It would almost be like, why do you only do Scot Squad? But that person in my family doesn't know what my industry's like. I can't just walk into another acting job. I've got no acting experience.
But see, anyway, regardless, that's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
But I find that those questions I don't even answer them. I just feel now they don't warrant a response.
I don't respond now to it, but at the time, you know, like, see when you're sharing good news and you're met with negativity for years. So it got to the point that, see, when I was getting Scot Squad, I used to just not tell certain family members, and they used to find out through the newspaper. But then I've pulled a few of them aside and I've been like, stop it. And I've also explained why as well. You know, I've seen it before as well. Like, my nephew is really good at football, and you know, that's why I don't take it personal. But my nephew's really good at football, and he scored 2 goals once, and a family member was like, you could have got a hat trick. And I'm like, mate, you've never played football in your life. Like, shut the fuck up and stop setting these weird, like, why are you doing that? Like, say well done and pat somebody in the back. So, but I had friends like that, I've had family like that. That doesn't mean see the family and the friends that are supportive, they're like guardian angels. So I'm not ranting here, it's not a negative rant, because the people that are positive in my life are like unbelievable. But yeah, there was a lot of negativity, and you constantly need to justify yourself and constantly explaining yourself to people as well. So I get it as well. Sometimes, you know, you get neighbours, like, I've been through therapy and stuff, and sobriety has really helped me with all that as well. But, you know, you'd bump into somebody in the street and you just know they're going to ask me, like, how much I earn, or do I pay tax and stuff. And it might seem, I don't know, comical to some people, but times that by 40 times a day, 7 days a week. And these are people that don't come to my gigs. They don't even come and watch me do stand-up. So I've got family members, like, slagging me about Scott Squad, and I'm like, you've never even seen me do stand-up. So your opinion means nothing to me. Like, I said that to a family member. I was like, even your positive opinion means nothing to me, because you've never seen me do stand-up. So see, when you're trying to tell me about gigs and how to run comedy nights, you've never stepped foot in a comedy club. So you don't know anything about stand-up comedy. Your only thing about comedy is Billy Connolly wearing banana boots back in the 60s, and you never even seen Billy Connolly live. So you don't know anything about stand-up comedy, because it is an art form, and so therefore your opinion doesn't mean anything to me now. But now I'm at a stage now that, you know, I'm a master of just, like, if somebody asks us something like that, I'll just,
you don't even give it
I don't
time.
even engage.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about, like, cutting people off, blocking them out and whatever, you made reference to that. Have you done a lot of that over the years to keep your circle positive for you, to have a positive impact on you?
I think, see, part of growing up and getting a wee bit older as well, I know I'm still in my 30s, but you get older, right? And then you realise, I think you get to a point in your life where you've had people in your life, family members and pals for high school and stuff, and then you realise, wait a minute, they've actually never been my pal. You think back to times and comments and major life events, and you're like, you were never there. You only ever wanted. You never gave back. You only took. I always slag my dad as a joke in my set, but he always told me this amazing thing one day, and I've always remembered it. He's like, you can get, like, transmitters. Like, some people are like radios, and they just transmit. They don't take anything in. And I had people like that in my life. So I've cut off some family members. I've cut off a couple of friends. I cut off a friend recently, actually, because it got really toxic, and I had to say something. A lot of my life was, I'll let people just be negative because it would never really affect me. But when that line gets crossed, I was like, I need to say something. It was basically, do you want me to tell you what happened? Right, so basically I'd done my first ever stand-up tour not that long ago, probably under 2 years ago, and the major, after lockdown, you know, lockdown was dreadful for everybody. I thought I was going to quit stand-up comedy. I went away and got a job as a window cleaner with my pal, and I thought stand-up and acting is over. And then I got back into it, done my first ever tour, and I had a friend that was always strange with my work and gigs, and, you know, he would always ask about what you're going to do for a real job. And the end of the tour was at the Oran Moor, and I sold it out. So I told him, I would love for you and your wife to be there. I'll offer you free tickets, guest list. Everybody else is going to be there, and it got to the night of the gig and he never turned up. But he never texted me either. And that's what hurt me. It's the fact that he never texted me. I don't care that he never came. It's the fact that he never told me. And you know, it was like, have you seen that Alan for the Hangover meme when he's putting all the sums together? I was just, it's when he's trying to figure out something and he's putting all these sums together and he figures something out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I told him, we were driving somewhere and I could see his face in the mirror. And I was like, mate, I'd love it if you could come to the Oran Moor. And I seen his face like drop in the mirror. And I had to go, I went through therapy and stuff, and my therapist was like, have you ever considered that people might be jealous or bitter? And I never ever, especially for friends and family, that never ever occurred to me. That was never an option. I just thought, why are they weird with me? I never ever thought it was jealousy. And I had some family members like that as well. Like, I've got a family member that's never came to see me do stand-up. But for years, he was always like, could you get his Frankie Boyle tickets or Kevin Bridges tickets? All that stuff. And I never ever... He even used to say to me, like, I could do that. I could do stand-up. What you do?
Right, who do you think you are?
Aye. And but same again, it would never be well done, good on you. It'd always just be like, much you getting for that? But see, when you realise that there's people like that in your life, it's very, very freeing. Because why do you want to make somebody that doesn't care about you? I don't need to prove myself.
It doesn't work anyway. You can't make somebody care about you that feels like that.
So basically, with the friend situation, I cut him off. I've got a really bad habit of like shunning people. It is a bad habit, and I shunned them, and I realised it wasn't making me feel any better. And also his response to that, we were pals for 15 years and his response was nothing. And then I thought, I need to say something, and I basically sent him a text message and I called him out on his behaviour. I also explained everything that happened. I told him, don't even lie to me. I know that you're not interested. I know that there's something weird going on. You've been really strange when we're working gigs, and I gave him about 15 examples, and he was actually like, I can't deny that. So he was trying to he was like, I'll be supportive with you now, I'll come and see your gigs now. And I just said, nah, that ship has sailed. Like, there's been major life achievements with me, and you've never been there for me, ever. I've always been there for you though, in personal things in life, and anytime he's needed help, or I've always been there as a pal. And I said, you're no welcome, because if you come to any of my gigs now, it would be strange. Just like some of my family members, if I see some of them at my gigs, it would probably put me off. Like, I've been doing this for 14, 15 years and you've never been. I don't expect you to be there. So I told him, I was like, it's my party and you're not invited. And he took it pretty badly. He was like, I was there for you. Like back in the day, I used to go to your gigs and stuff. And I was just like, whatever, mate. You know, the first time, I don't want to this is turning into a therapy session, fuck's sake. I hope my pal doesn't see it either, man. He'll be sitting in his flat.
Are you still pals?
No, we're no pals. We're no pals. Do you know, I'm not saying we'll never be pals, but I've kind of left it to him. I've stood back and I've been like, I've explained everything, and it's up to you. But I'm not having a go. I love Gary Little, right? Gary Little's a great comedian, but see my Glasgow Comedy Festival debut, which was over 10 years ago. It was at Blackfriars Comedy Club, and I was supposed to do one solo show, and I ended up selling out 4. So it was an amazing night. Everybody that mattered to me was there that night, apart from him. Again, it wouldn't have hurt me, but he went to see Gary Little that night with his girlfriend and his brother and stuff. And I thought, wow, man, that hurt me. Like, I don't mind that. See if somebody was like, mate, I've got a sore head, I can't go. No hassle. see the fact that he went to see another comedian on the same night at the same time on my debut. It was like my debut. That ripped my heart out, man. And the only thing I think about now is like I wish I called him out earlier and I let that fester. I remember the start of my tour was really awful. I had a stressful experience with a cowboy promoter, and the first night was in Greenock, and I walked into a venue. I didn't even know it was going ahead, never knew how many tickets I sold, and I was in this WhatsApp group with him, and I was just like, when I get stressed, my hair falls out. That's happened within the last 10 years.
I know somebody else like that.
Aye.
Me?
So,
No, I'm only joking. I know a guy that suffers with that as well.
So I'm in this venue in Greenock, and I was a lot bigger as well, like 20 odd stone, all stress, and my hair was falling out, and I'm trying to talk in this WhatsApp group, like having a mini breakdown essentially. And he basically started talking about House of Cards and Kevin Spacey. He's just like, do you know how I know Kevin Spacey was bad, but that show was brilliant. And I just remember stoning and looking at my phone, and I had another moment of like, they don't give a fuck. So I've just applied that to my whole life with certain family and certain pals, and I
think I've let you say all of that because it's
pure ranting, I'm sorry.
No, it was amazing. It's so relatable.
Yeah.
Like, I think everybody watching this will have a person or people like that in their life, and it's like the realisation. I mean, I was relating to it with more than one person, and it's, you do that thing of when you eventually call it out and you think back to everything and you think to yourself, you didn't even like me.
Yeah.
I am such a fanny.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you think to yourself.
Yep.
But I think as a kind human, right, which we are, when you're friends with somebody and you think you've got that bond, you put up with a lot before you finally go, no.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why, like, I think that is so relatable.
People getting cheeky as well. You don't realise, like, see if somebody was cheeky to me in the street or in a bus or something, you'd pick up on it. But sometimes I'm like, he was actually really cheeky to me there, and I never even noticed it. Like, I never even, because it's your pal, you just accept. You don't even think it. Like, or things like sarcasm or snidey digs and stuff. Like, even like one time, I love to, I get a lot of my material from doing random things, right? I don't just sit with a pad. So I'll go and I'll do cold water swimming, I'll do anything that I can get a joke for, I'll go and do it. And I was sitting with two of my mates, and he was one of them. And my pal was bringing up things like, he was bringing up, you know, cold water swimming, fasting, all that stuff. I was a vegan for 2 years. And I was like, oh, I've done that cold water swimming. Oh, I was a vegan for 2 years. And he's like, for fuck's sake, man, is there anything that you've no done? And I never even noticed it at the time, but I kind of look back and I'm like, all right, okay.
Aye. But you reflect, it is that thing.
And if anybody is watching this and they have a problem with friends or family members, I would say get it off your chest and don't be cruel about it. There's a thing called resentment, and we use it in sobriety. They say resentment is a dangerous thing that can lead to you to relapse. And you know, there'll be people in your life that do things that annoy you and they probably don't even know it. And then see, as soon as you bring it up and like say something about it, they'll probably stop. Like, I had a family member that used to be horribly sarcastic, like awful sarcasm that I would never class as humour. I would class as cruel, snidey digs through like sarcastic riddles. And after 10 years I sent him a text message and I was like, you are affecting my mental health and I'm starting to hate your guts. And I even sent him an article on how certain types of sarcasm can be abusive, and he's never been sarcastic to me since.
It's like narcissistic behaviour.
Yep.
And that was it, and that fixed that problem for you because you called it out.
And again, the only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. is calling it out sooner. You're just like, why did I put up with that for so long? But it's part of growing up.
So that's a big thing for you now, managing the people that are in your circle to keep your mindset where it needs to be, to do what you do. Did you see the Funny Bunch Club thing? Is that yours? Did you create that? Or are you part of that?
Aye, let's get back into the comedy. I feel like I'm just like, I fucking hate my family. I fucking hate my family and my mates.
I feel like I've just jumped right into that, but there's more I wanted to ask you. Are you roasting, by the way?
No, I'm alright. I'm alright.
Oh man, I'm jumping all over the place now. I wanted, the Funny Bunch just came into my mind there because you were talking about, like, you know, people criticising you for what you do and whatever. But also I want to ask you about the whole therapy thing, because there's such an amazing story, because you weren't ready to end it all as well.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Funny Bunch first though, and then we'll come back to like your mental health.
Right, so I'll essentially it all happened because of the podcast, right? Well, we'll go to the mental health in a minute, but so I'm better off explaining to you how it came about. So during lockdown, I gave up. I was just like, I'm not, because see with the COVID stuff, there was genuine chat about comedy clubs not being a thing anymore.
I know, like, I remember it.
So I thought, if comedy clubs are not happening, then how can I do stand-up? So that's it, finished. And there was gigs happening during lockdown, but I ballooned up to 22 stone. I was slap-head bald with stress, and I've got body dysmorphia, right? So see, when you're looking at yourself, you're 22 stone, you've got no hair, and my skin was awful as well, like sores in my neck and stuff. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is be funny or be in front of a camera. So I was just working with my pal, and then, have you ever heard of a wee guy called Kieran Burns?
I think I've seen him on TikTok.
He does TikTok, and he does a podcast called All About Ability. And he does it in a podcast studio in the town, and he asked me to go on a podcast as a guest, and I was like, Kieran, mate, man, I've not spoke to anybody in 2 years, like riddled with anxiety, scared to talk to people. And he's like, I'd really like you to come on. So I went into that podcast studio, and it went well. And he said to me, would you like to start a podcast with me? And I said yes, but I'm chucking stand-up comedy and I'm going to not do acting anymore. And then Kieran's had mental health problems as well. It was all COVID mental health. Everybody was fucked with COVID. So he stopped. I thought we were starting it within a week, and then it turned into months. And I said to my producer Paul Shields, who's also my co-host, I never knew him at the time. I said, Paul, I can't wait about for this podcast, mate. I'm just going to say no, and then I'm just going to go back to work. And Paul said, why don't you start your own podcast? And I was like, oh wow, man, start my own podcast. I've not done anything in 2 years. I've not spoke to anybody. I don't know what to do. And he's like, why don't you just talk about that? Talk about what you've done in the last 2 years. And I was saying things like, mate, I don't know if I can be a stand-up comedian again. And he's like, you don't need to be a stand-up comedian. Just come on and talk about your life. So I went in and I started doing the podcast. And I felt like I was like, it's so amazing to like watch it back. Just, I don't even know why I started it, because I started it, I think I was bored. And he's a therapist as well. See all these things
that makes sense.
See all these things that just they all fall into place. So I started talking, went in for my first podcast, and then over the space of time, like, I found it very therapeutic, and it was really nice, and it was helping other people as well. But then I was making him laugh, and see, when he was laughing, I was like, wow, sorry.
Oh, you're getting emotional.
I can't believe I'm getting emotional.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
testament to how amazing and special he is to you.
Yes.
So Darren's, the sun is totally in our faces here. Darren's podcast is called Straight White Whale, and you'll get it on all the platforms that you get a podcast.
Yes.
And I can totally relate to all of that you're saying. Obviously, I mean, whilst I'm no a therapist or anything like that, I totally understand the therapeutic part of doing this type of thing, and I also understand the therapeutic part of listening to I love a podcast now, and that's only came to me really, really recently. When I started doing this, I couldn't be arsed with podcasts, but here I was doing a podcast. But see what you were saying about listening back, so you'll know what I mean by this. See, when you're doing this type of thing, it's a completely different experience when you're sitting here, right? Because you do that thing of beating yourself up. Like you go, after you go, oh, I said this and I said that and I shouldn't have said this and I sounded like a fanny and blah, 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 right?
Yes.
And then you watch it. I don't watch all mine's back, but I watch bits to create the reel or the bit that I'm going to share on TikTok, right? So I'll watch big chunks of it to create that bit of content. I always, without fail, go, oh my God, that looks and sounds completely different to the experience that I was having sitting in the car. Like, do you know, it's mental.
It is crazy, right? Because I wouldn't say I'm lazy, right? But I wouldn't say I'm lazy, but it keeps you accountable, it keeps you productive. And also when I wasn't crying out of sadness there, by the way, it was happiness.
No, it was emotional.
When he was laughing, it was giving me a buzz.
Aye.
And
He's
then,
special to you, clearly.
Yeah, and he was like, mate, why don't you start doing stand-up again? I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. And then when I was working with my pal, it was my pal and his dad, and the dad was like, you know, typical old Glaswegian psychopath. So we kind of stopped working.
Aye.
And, you know, the stand got in touch and they were like, would you like to headline a Red Raw on a Tuesday night? And it was January the 10th or something. And I thought, well, new year, new me. I've not done a gig in 2 years. I'll go and I'll do the stand. And that was my first gig back in like 2.5 years. Last January. And then you know, my podcast started off as essentially therapy, but then it turned into an actual show. So when you listen to it, there'll be a song at the start, I'll get a guest on, and it's not really, we don't talk about mental health. It wasn't even a mental health.
You just chat. I've listened to a few of them. You just chat.
So then I was like, I've always had a love of stand-up comedy, and I thought I've never really compared or hosted. Like, that's a major thing that I've never done, and I was almost embarrassed that I've never done it. Like, somebody was like, what do you mean you've been gone 12 years and you've only hosted 2 gigs? And I was like, you're right, I should have hosted more. So then I thought, why don't I just start my own gig and host it, and that will give me a chance to like improv more, make more material, but also give other people work in a tough time. So then I started the Funny Bunch at the Stand, and it's grew into this just amazing monster that
it's
it's
massive.
The last one there sold out before I even put it online. Like I never even put a poster up and it sold out, and I had Raymond Mearns opening it and Gary Fauld's closing it. And you know, I'm getting these new comedians as well coming and doing spots in the middle where I used to be, and I'm paying them, I'm giving them an amazing gig, and it's good for the soul. And the Funny Bunch is just a monthly night. I'm taking it to Edinburgh now as well.
Going to the festival?
Not the festival, I'm taking it to the Monkey Barrel, which is Monkey Barrel Comedy Club is a really good comedy club. And yeah, I'm just taking it as it comes, and it's brilliant. But you know, again, I wouldn't, you know, I'm humble, but I'm like, I've also worked really hard. Like there's a lot of work that's went into that night, and having the podcast has really helped, and TikTok has really helped as well.
I know, and we've not talked about that because your TikTok grew quite a bit recently.
Yeah.
That was the depression candle.
Yes.
Sketches and that. I was drawn in by that as well. I
Yeah.
was making sure I wasn't missing them. That was hilarious. And people still say, that's the thing, see when you do something like that, people never forget. In
No.
years to come, people will say, you still doing the depression candles, Dad?
Yeah.
So there's loads, I mean the point is there's loads to be proud of, and there is nothing wrong with saying that, and I think because they are in build culture, sometimes we feel a wee bit uncomfortable saying it,
Yes.
but it's alright to say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just like we're 55 minutes in, but I do want to just quickly,
Here,
if
I'm not in a
we
rush,
can-
man. You
alright,
feel free
fine.
to ask as well.
The whole mental health thing, because I know you talk about Back On Side, and I've got them on Instagram as well. You really sing their praises because they're a small charity
Yeah.
and they saved your life, quote unquote.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So it was round about the time that I stopped working with my pal. So I was in this position of like, what am I doing with my life? And it was weight wise, it was the biggest that I was ever for a long time. And you know, I also don't know why it happened, because I never really knew. Libby runs Back On Side.
I've got her on Instagram.
She's a guardian angel. What's the word? Serendipity or something, maybe? I don't know.
What do you mean, that you met her at the right time?
Well,
No.
it's quite a strange thing how it happened. I don't know if she's just a master on picking up on things, but I was starting my tour and I was with a dodgy promoter. I ended up sacking him during the tour, so it started off terrible and it ended fantastic. A woman called Sarah Watson came in and saved the day. She used to be the boss of the Glasgow Comedy Festival. So basically I was out walking one day and I was just fried. My mind was fried and I was massive and I was just absolutely gone.
And you already suffered with depression and anxiety before that, is that right?
I've had it like numerous times throughout my life, but I've had like long periods of being fantastic, and that hurt me that time because there's been moments in my life, I know fitness and stuff shouldn't really be, in fact I never think about that anyway, but there's been moments when I've been like super fit, you know, really happy, girlfriend and stuff, and I never ever thought that I would have been back to that, the darkness. And I was walking down the street that day and I was like, I cannot believe I'm back at like rock bottom after all the recovery stuff that I've done, after all the mental health help that I've done. And my phone was ringing one day and I was looking at my phone and I don't answer numbers that I don't know. I don't know if it's an anxiety thing. I've got no reason to answer a number that I don't know, but it's just always been a thing. Or, you know, do you get that when you get a letter?
Aye,
See, when you get a letter through,
aye.
you're like, right, that's because the bank want to take my house off me. It's never a normal thing. So I decided to answer the phone and it was Libby from Back On Side, and she was
Did you know her before that?
No, really. I knew her through association with people. I
Right.
just knew her through social media and stuff. But put it this way, getting a phone call off her was odd. Do you know what I mean? And she started talking to me and she was just like, how are you? You alright? And just kind of asking all the right questions. And I don't even know why, but I just like let go and just told her the truth. And I just had such a relief of like emotion in the middle of the street, crying in the middle of the street, and told her everything, how I was feeling. And a therapist that works at Back On Side phoned us within an hour and I started therapy, and I ended up doing therapy with them for 7 months, once a week, and doing that, and then, which was very professional from a professional therapist. But then I was doing my podcast and Paul was a therapist. Paul was like, I can't be your therapist because we're friends, but that was beneficial to me as well, because then I would go on and rant have normal life rants, and he would have his therapist head on. And it was just the best 7 months that I've ever had. And, you know, it's the best thing that I've done. It's made me enjoy stand-up more. It's made me look at myself as well. Like you know, I'm talking about my pal there being an arsehole, but it made me also look at when I was a bad person as well, which was very freeing. And it's made me go back and apologise to people and apologise for my behaviour. When I was a comedian as well back in the day, I was bitter and jealous, and I used to be like, he's only getting that because he knows that producer, or how come I'm not getting that? I used to be like that. I used to be jealous. And I think overall throughout my whole life I have been a good person, but it has made me go back and be like, I remember I fell out with a pal. It was so silly. It was a gig ticket. It was to go and see a band, and I fell out with him for a year. And when I finished therapy, it made me realise that I was like, oh no, I was in the wrong there. And you know, see, in the past, even if I was in the wrong or made a mistake, my ego would be too big for me to say I made a mistake there. So doing therapy and being sober made me pick up the phone and say, I'm really sorry for my behaviour there. That was an awful overreaction. I explained why I reacted like that, and I just said sorry, and he was like, mate, it's totally cool, I totally understand. And then the ADHD thing as well, like, you can get quite, you can take things dead like personal and like, you know, all that stuff. So that's made me see the power of saying sorry to people. That's been unbelievable. And I look at other comedians as well now, and I'm just so happy that they're doing well. Like, I'll give you an example. Gary Fawkes is my mate. I love Gary Fawkes.
I love Gary.
See, 10 years ago though, I'd be like that. How's he getting that? Like, what's he doing?
You're not doing, you're not getting.
That's witchcraft. He's into witchcraft. But now I'm just like, I look at people like Gary, Bridges, Susie McCabe, and I'm just like, they're there and they're getting it because they're talented and they're funny and they work really hard. So I'm glad that I went through that process as well. That was good. But therapy, because I was in recovery as well, I started to lose my joy of sobriety. See, when I was starting to get mental health problems again, I started to say sobriety is a lot of shite. I wasn't an alcoholic, and I was starting about maybe I could have a pint, and all that started to come in, and and doing therapy way back on side gave us like a second wave of like appreciating being sober and doing service for people, doing charity work for people. And yeah, I'm glad I went through it. If anybody's ever, I think therapy, I've done therapy a couple of times, but that time way back on side was an absolute game changer.
And that was because Libby phoned you. What do you think you would have done? What would have happened if they hadn't phoned you? Do you think you would have reached out? Because you've done therapy before, like you said. Do you think you would have?
I don't know. The ego can be an awful thing, because I was maybe 6.5 years sober, and you know, see, before lockdown, I was a vegan, I was doing boxing training, and I had a beautiful girlfriend, and I was very successful at stand-up comedy. And then I was looking at myself on the street that day, comparing myself to what I used to be, and I thought, I can't believe, it was almost like embarrassment, shame, my ego. I can't believe I need to ask for help again. And I don't know if I would ask for help. I mean, hindsight is an amazing thing, isn't it? Maybe I would have asked for help, I don't know. But yeah, the suicidal thoughts were back, the depression was back, body dysmorphia was back, and yeah, I don't know if I'd asked for help, to be honest.
See now, if you felt like things are going great, and I want to finish off by just recapping on everything that you're doing and where people can find you, but see if it happened now,
mm-hmm.
would you wouldn't hesitate in reaching out? to get the help?
So I do things now to make sure that I don't get to that. So I do recovery meetings once a week. I've got friends that are sober.
Do you go to the AA meetings? What's your recovery meeting? Can you talk about that?
I mean, I know it's
No.
supposed to be anonymous, but
Oh,
fuck it.
that's right.
I go.
Somebody's.
I go.
But people do say that and then say exactly what you've said. It's supposed to be anonymous.
Fuck it. I go. Times have changed, and if it helps somebody, then it can help somebody. I'm not going to be, it's anonymous. As long as I don't tell anybody what happens in the meetings.
And that's fair enough
it's like,
to say that.
you know, I class it as a mental health group. I go there once a week. I do service. I help people when they ask me for help. So I do things like that, things that I wasn't doing before, that made me probably get back into that position. And then, you know, I'm still in touch with Libby. I don't do therapy anymore, but you know, you learn a lot as well. Like, I can catch myself, like, if I don't say something about this is going to be a problem. So I'll share how I feel. I'll apologise as well if I do something wrong. And so there's a kind of set of tools that I use to just keep myself right. But you know, life is so enjoyable right now that I never want to get back into that position again. So I would ask for help. I absolutely would ask for help. But I'm doing things this year as well. I'm doing a charity night for Back On Side. I'm going to raise some money for them. I'm going to do the cult walk. I do a lot of walking as well. Walking helps me. Like, walking's amazing for my mental health. My cousin's a boxer, and I used to train with a professional boxer. I used to fast. I used to walk with weighted vests on. See, the simplicity of just going for a walk is the best thing that you can do. You don't need to do all these mad things. Just walk.
It's good to hear. That's good to hear. A guy especially, because I know you talk about this as well, there still isn't enough men openly and honestly talking about their feelings and their mental health, and it's a massive help when there is somebody online doing it, and you do it, although you're dead funny on you know it's just Darren Connell, isn't it?
Yeah,
on
Darren
your socials,
Connell,
on your TikTok and your sketches and whatever. You do from time to time have a serious and I always love them as well, and I've said that, I've commented on that, saying I do love these you know, serious chats as well, because you know, I don't know, it's just when somebody's out there, you want to see all the sides. You know, you don't just want to see the funny side, you want to see the real side as well, and I think you do that really well. So what's for you now in 2024? You've got your socials, you've got the Funny Bunch. What did you say about that? Is that once a month?
So the Funny Bunch is once a month at Blackfriars Basement in Glasgow. The next one is Sunday the 24th of February. It's not on sale yet, so I'll get that on sale.
People need to be quick though, like you
they need
just
to be
said,
that's why I've started to find myself like hold off so people can get tickets. So it's going really well. I'm going to continue to do that, to continue to give comedians work. The podcast is really successful as well.
Straight right well.
And I'm back to gigging in the circuit in Scotland. I don't have an agent right now. I'm kind of looking for an agent, but I'm no like desperate. I'm paying my bills and I'm happy. And that was another nice thing as well, to realise that I don't need anybody. I can do this myself. And if somebody comes along and tries to help me, then I'll take it. But I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, keep gigging with the people that I love, and then that's it really.
See where it takes you
Yeah.
and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm back to enjoying it, back to loving it, and that's
That's
it.
good to hear. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
all
you.
of that. And I know people that know you will love to see this. Well, I know you do it on your podcast anyway, actually. You kind of talk quite serious quite a lot on your podcast.
Yeah.
But you can't get enough chat about mental health, and that's why people will love it, in my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and we'll see you next
No
time.
bother.
Bye.